What is up, you guys, and welcome in. Today, we are talking about the Unity Matrix Prelude and what exactly is inside of that specific program. This is the beginner program. This is the program for people that are ready to create stability. This is the program for people that have never done self development. This is the program to create a subsystem before going into the deeper layers of work. There is something that is very important to me, and that is the word safety. Safety is the most important thing, and that goes with every field. So, without safety, there is no foundation, and without a foundation, you have nothing that you can grow on top of. So, that is what this specific part of the program does. This program, we are doing nothing with the Unity Matrix itself because the Unity Matrix is an initiation. It is catapulting you and collapsing time so that way you truly never go back to the way that you used to be. That is what it is designed to do. It is designed to break down structures that no longer serve you. It is designed to remove outer layers and specific structures that are unhealthy or are not beneficial or are programmed inside of you that are not real. And it is designed to kind of abolish that. And then we create a new structure. We understand our new beliefs. We understand the way that we actually think and the way that we actually exist. And we develop a greater form of intellectual autonomy. We develop greater forms of agency. We develop a very strong hold of who we are. And the really cool part about it is you build an unbreakable fucking ego. So that's what the Unity Matrix is meant to do. And I'm going to dive into another video because the Unity Matrix system itself is comprised of 8 months. It is designed to take 8 months to complete. However, real life, real shit, real problems. We all have it. And I don't know anyone other than myself, or bodybuilders or people that are totally like that would want to do 8 months worth of work nonstop to put themselves into a better position without a break. I've done it, I did it, and there is a softer way. So I have provided leeway for the program to take up to 2 years to finish. For those of the people that like to take it slower, for those of the people that like to breathe a little bit, for those of the people that need a little bit of a vacation. Um, that work is not easy, but it has truly simplified so many things. And if I did not do that type of work in myself, I wouldn't be the way that I am today. And other people that are starting that journey into the 8 month program, they already know. They already know that their lives will never go back. They will never be the same. And that they will be people that are so incredibly solidified in themselves that they have full agency over their lives. The work is remarkable. And I'm just glad that I could be somebody that is a vessel to give it out into the world. So, without further ado, let's dive into the Unity. Okay, I have to go this way. The Unity Matrix Prelude. All right. And I actually want to address something before we continue, that I know that a lot of people have witnessed my energy and felt my energy on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram, and even in person. And what they were seeing is not what's right here, right now. And I want to talk a little bit about that because one of the biggest flaws that I ever made or mistakes that I ever made inside of leadership was not communicating my own experiences and leaving the perception open. And I've realized that that doesn't actually get a leader anywhere, and it actually causes more stress for people. So, just to break down the way that I was going through my life for the last 6, 7, 8 months. I was so fortunate enough to open up a very deep, very, very deep, deep, deep grieving process. And inside of that grieving process, it opened up the layers to my most innocent being that lives inside of me. It opened up layers to, I want to say, the truest form of my femininity. And of course, these things always will evolve from time to time. But it kind of put me into what I want to call a tunnel or a portal, or like I talk in metaphors or analogies quite frequently because I live in the imaginary world. And despite me living there, I'm also very logical. So you'll have to follow, you'll see as you continue to interact with me what that actually means and what that actually looks like. But basically, for this last 8 months, I felt like I was in a fetal position inside of the womb, being shaped and molded every single day and being truly like solidified in everything that I am. It was a conjuncture of all of my traits that are positive, all of my traits that are negative, and molding them consistently in a very, very intense way to make sure that I become something that is shapeless, formless, solidified, real, and full of gravity is the way that I could describe it. So, going into a grieving process and then also having a very spiritually profound sense of surrender, it kind of left my nervous system in somewhat of a freeze response is the way that I could describe it. And inside of that freeze response, it was totally a fetal position in the mother's womb as like a whole adult, like, hi, mommy, please fucking push me out so I can do something with my life. So that's what that was. That's what that looked like. There were no serious things actually taking place in my life. I have princess problems to even be able to experience stuff like that, which is such a gift. And when people hear, oh, she's grieving, oh, she's going through a negative emotion, it's like, oh no, I don't want to experience that. And it's why not? So that's what was happening. And I have been really just catapulting myself into leadership, but inside of a feminine role, inside of a more female role, where a constant do fight, win compete, that energy just couldn't survive here. It had to die. And I'm glad that it did. And now it's really cool because that structure is entering the femininity in me, and I get to show up in the world like a cute little flower with giant brain muscles. So let's dive into the program. All right. So here is the front facing program. And I decided to send that was interested in this version of the program so that they could see it. A lot of people are like, why would you share it out loud? You don't have to share that much. Listen, I spent 5 years, okay? 5 years writing theory, putting all of this stuff together. I spent the last well, yeah, we can just talk about 8 months. I spent the last 8 months working for 10 at the very least to 22 hours a day putting this together. I'm not worried about you taking this because I know how much work there was to put into it. And then you're like, well, AI is here. We have AI. Bullshit. AI is not going to do this the way that I just did. That's a fact. So here is the Unity Matrix prelude. I spent a lot of time being nice and creative and creating a brand and doing all of those things so that way when you enter this, it looks beautiful and is soothing or exciting or it evokes emotions. I really love a good panther. So we put the panther in there. So there was a lot of effort here. So when you see this little diagram here, first and foremost, this little guy that you see, the diagram, this geometric form, this geometric form represents everything that exists in the universe, everything that God created. This is a very, very deeply symbolic picture here. So, with this picture, this is not the same picture. And I'm looking around my that's hilarious. I'm looking around my place for like one of my geometric forms somewhere and I took it down because I was like I don't need to think about this every moment of my entire life. Um but you will see that there are only two squares. So it's this diamond square and this straight square. And I got rid of this one in the middle because having 5 phases was truly the best path. So I took it out. So this represents this. I'm going to go through the entire representation of this with you. Because I think understanding what things mean and being transparent about what things mean and not trying to hide things is the best way to go. So this outer world, this outer circle here, that represents Earth. Okay. Um, Earth is the physical matter. It's the flesh. It is everything that we see. It's all of creation. And every single way in represents all of the different bodies. So, by bodies, I mean the physical body, the superficial layer, all of the way into the heart. Okay. So, those represent the physical plane, the intellectual plane, the emotional plane, the subtle plane, and then the core, which is the bliss body. Those are the 5 bodies. And outside of here, I am a believer in the concept of understanding time and space. So, putting time and space together, and I understand that this could be a turnoff for people that are not interested in esoterics. I want you to know something. This has nothing to do with anything esoteric at all, actually. This was created by the law of octaves inside of music. Inside of music. I have never been able to learn music. And in my own life, because I was diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder, time and I sucked. I could show up for places on time, I could be there on time. I spent years trying to write down in a journal, keeping track of habits, writing down my time and place every single day. And still, I didn't have a grasp on the concept of it. It was something that was just so foreign to me. And I realized that time exists inside of octaves. So you have your do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And inside of that, you have the moments where everything is chill. You're just beginning. You have the moments of rise, of action. You have the moments of subtlety. You have the moments of simplicity. You have the moments of doing nothing and of rest. And then you have the fuck you moments where your life just comes at you for no reason. And I realized that if I have DID, I'm going to be attracting a lot of people, likely, that also struggle with time and how to manage it. And why not create a system that actually brings you into the way that time and space actually exist so you don't have to struggle with that concept anymore of like, oh shit, I've just lost 3 weeks and I don't know what happened to my life. One of my coaches back when I did bodybuilding, he was actually really worried about me in time because I never had a concept of it. I showed up every single day in, day out, doing the thing on routine. And the thing that he noticed is, yeah, you're here and you're showing up every single day. Like you're not missing a beat. The thing is there's nothing actually solidifying the time that you're using. It's not going anywhere. And he was afraid for me actually, because fuck, man. You have so much potential. What are you going to do with all of that work that you're putting in? And until I could grasp the time and space and grasp the way that that actually worked and create something that wasn't even linear and understand something that wasn't even linear, it had to be octaves. So it might sound totally woo-woo, but I think a lot of us live our lives through music, and I think a lot of people understand life through music, and they have so much meaning and joy put behind it as well. And that's how that was created, was through the law of octaves. So every single one of these outer rings represents time, and then also every single one of these outer rings represents a specific domain. I'm not going to share every single domain. If you have taken the free quiz and you typed in or threw in your phone number, you got that whole list. All right, so moving inwards, there's a lot of complexity with this, and I want to break it down because it's really fucking cool. So these all represent the phases of sublimation. So all of this has been broken down into science. So there's different phases of sublimation, and I'm not going to go through the whole theory and all of the things that I talked about. But if we think about sublimation, we have the full hard form, and then we have the evaporation, we have the dissolution, we have all of those different phases, okay? And that's really what it looks like to go through the phases inside of our psyche. So, what I did is I put the phases of sublimation. I believe there's actually 8 phases inside of sublimation, if I'm correct, but I condensed them into 5 phases. And last but not least, this also represents every single layer and level of consciousness. And consciousness is this thing that we think is all woo woo too. And it kind of irritates me because it's honestly one of the most obvious things that exist. And that it's even more obvious than anything that Freud ever wrote. Like, and I guess a lot of Freud's ideas are super weird, and I think that they're weird because he said that they would be, and not necessarily that all of them are that weird. Some of them really are, but we have different types of consciousness. We have altered states of consciousness, we have the subconscious, we have the preconscious, we have the actual conscious, waking conscious, we have the hypnagogic state, we have all of those different things, right? When we merge all of those different cool forms of consciousness and we merge them into elevating them and creating ourselves or merging ourselves with divine oneness, and this goes the divine oneness. When I actually created that theory, as I was putting all of this together, it went back to the multiplicative form inside of math and the multiplicative identity. So if we look at this, we can see how this one being is split up into all of these different fragments and all of these different halves and all of these different parts. And all of those different halves and all of those different parts represent a one. So you might not have DID. You probably don't have significant mental illness. Maybe you do. Every single one of us has a full range of emotions. Every single one of us has beliefs. Every single one of us has ideas on the way that we live. All of us have associations, right? And so when I studied the multiplicative form of math, and I went back into that, and it was really cool because this actually all came about because I was cutting somebody's hair, and they told me that they had to teach multiplicative forms in college. They were a college professor and they were teaching multiplicative identity in math. And I looked it up because I was like, wow, that actually could be something that's very useful. And so I created that theory based off of the multiplicative forms in math. And then I found out later that Carl Jung had already done all of this through alchemy, that he had already done all of this through his own work. And then I did even more research, and it comes to find out that every single one of these things is already backed by physics. It's already backed by science. It's already something that another psychiatrist has done. And there's hundreds of thousands of models out there that are condensed now into the system. So I can't really explain everything, but that is a breakdown of this. And I actually want to pull back for a second and talk a little bit about the levels of consciousness. So, from my memory, right off of the top of my head, there are 12 levels of consciousness. And I have broken them down into 5 levels of consciousness. If you guys are interested in a much simpler form of the consciousness before you ever sign up with me, or you want to do that research on your own to see what that looks like, Forbes actually has a levels of consciousness for entrepreneurs. And that specific article lines right up with not only David Hawkins, but a bunch of other different resources and books on consciousness. So what I did is I condensed them into those 5 layers, and then to add a little bit of tea on top, a little bit of a spoonful of sugar, I also found that the 5 levels of the soul associated with, whoa, I'm gonna butcher this right off of the top of my head. Pause. I'm gonna pause this video so that way I can go look it up. But before I look up the proper term and the proper way to say it, this is also representative of the 5 levels of the soul, the 5 stages of the soul. So pause. So nevertheless, this is not the right terminology for it, but I do not want to butcher this entire group's methodology or their beliefs, but it's also known as the 5 different wisdoms. So that is everything that exists inside of our nice little diagram here. And for those of you that are like, why does this matter? Or this sounds extremely complicated, trust me. I've made it very, very easy for you, but I know that anyone that is ever in my vicinity, for the most part, they want to know everything. And there's just too much to say during a conversation. It's kind of like, well, you kind of just have to experience it. So instead of, I've provided this resource for anyone that's curious, I guess. So this is the front facing thing for the entire program. So I went ahead and I wrote down exactly how many videos and how many documents are inside of this. And I know that I'm short a few videos in my math, and I know I'm short a couple documents, but to not over promise, I cut it back a little bit. So inside of this front facing thing, inside of all of this, we have 40 video lessons, and we also have 33 documents. Okay, that is a lot and also overwhelming. So you do not receive everything at the very beginning. When you complete something, you let me know that you've completed it, and then I open it up so that way you receive the next thing. With this, you also get 12 one-on-one calls with me. So the design for the calls is specifically intended for us to talk about the things that you've learned. It is intended for me to be able to mentor you through this specific program and to ensure that you are actually improving in your life. So this even does not also cover the goal sheets that I have at the very beginning. It also doesn't include the survey to ensure that you are actually progressing, because it would be absolutely worthless for me to have you do this entire program and maybe this isn't the exact right fit for you. So there are other programs that I also have that I can move you into in the case that this is maybe too beginner friendly. Maybe you are not somebody that can sit and watch videos and fill out documents. So I have it set up to where if this isn't the right thing, we can move you somewhere else. And that's not going to be a problem, because every single person learns differently. Every single person engages with a program differently. Every single person needs something different. And the last thing that I want to do is force someone to be stuck inside of something that's really not right. And I learned that horrible experience myself by spending a very, very big chunk of money investing into a program that they convinced me would be great for me that absolutely sucked. The program sucked. It was completely unorganized, and everything inside of it was not useful for what I needed. So I don't want to have anyone ever experience that in this program. I'm a very big believer inside of my ethics and inside of the things that I care about. And I care about people more than getting my product sold. I really do. I would rather go. Oh, actually, I've already done it. I would rather go 8 months without a paycheck. Sorry, I've already done it. I would rather go 5 years without a paycheck. Sorry, I've already done it. I'd rather go all of that time working my fucking ass off for people to be able to excel and succeed than I would be to sell something that's just not fucking good or not worth it or harmful or detrimental or not safe. So, with that, we created this. So, this is the corner where people get to finally grasp onto specific fundamental things that I had to learn how to implement the hard way. And some of you might say, well, honey, you're only 27 and look where you are. Yes. And I've also always viewed the world from a million different lenses. And I've also always never made the same mistake more than twice. I say that more than twice. I've never made the same mistake more than twice. So, with that, that is how this has happened. Now, and I don't know why this over here is like this. We'll have to fix that. I probably set my notebook down on my computer, but I'm going to ignore it for the sake of this video, even though I really want to solve it immediately. This is the crisis module. So, you might be asking, well, what the fuck are you doing teaching crisis if you're not a therapist? Because that definitely goes against the laws. It doesn't. It actually doesn't. What I'm not allowed to do is intervene inside of a crisis. I am not allowed to be physically active while someone is making a safety plan. And I am also not allowed to there's another video. So if you want to see what I'm allowed and what I'm not allowed to do, you will go and watch that video. I do not know if it is posted as of right now, but I made a video about the difference between therapy and coaching. Not the therapy versus coaches one, but what I can do versus can't do inside of that. So if you are interested in finding out if I'm in alignment or not, you can go watch that video and then decide for yourself. And then you can also take it upon yourself to do that research and decide. But to me, rather it's personal training, rather it's just regular mentorship, rather it's business coaching, I think that it is really fucking dumb to not have this stuff in order when working with anyone, because every single thing that we do exists within the mind. And I'm going to share another really hard lesson that I had to learn about this. I was a personal trainer and a fitness coach, and guess what? All of my clients miraculously had extreme trauma that they needed to work through. And at this time, I'm a good old 21 years old, loving the fitness industry, worked really hard to get certifications, worked really hard to figure out how to do all of this stuff, worked really hard to learn the science behind all of it, would stay up all night on my phone researching and understanding everything. And I wasn't prepared for the moment that a client came to me having attempted suicide and refused all of my directions on you need to go get a therapist, had refused all of my directions on you need to go to the mental health hospital, refused all of my directions on you need to fucking physically go to the hospital, please, for the love of God, and said, no, I am working with you. I did what I did. I'm alive today, and we're going to get through it. That person put all of their faith in me. And this person was also, I want you to know this, 15 years older than me. Okay? So I had to learn, okay, shit. Oh, shit. I'm just a personal trainer. I don't have all of the resources for this person. I should have had all of these resources for this person. And now I'm responsible. And if this person died while working with me inside of the fitness community, there is a specific amount of weight that I have to carry knowing that I was working with this person and there might have been signs that I was missing. So, and I've shared this in the last video. So we can have all of the beef all we want, but I will be goddamned. I will be goddamned. Under no circumstances am I going to allow that to happen in my space. Under no circumstances am I not going to have every single module, every single modality to ensure that people have what they need. And guess what? Even more so, therapy offices are not doing this. Therapy offices are not providing crisis education, how to avert crisis. They are not creating actual fucking safety plans for people. So my question, if we are getting into safety, all right, if we are getting into safety with mental health, why the fuck are you telling your fucking clients to just call the 1-800 suicide number when people don't even fucking pick up? That is not a fucking resource. It is a cop out so you don't actually have to do your fucking job. Or maybe you just don't know. Maybe those 8 years of academia were fucking bullshit for no reason. So, you can be pissed off about it. You can totally suck my dick about it. I would rather be on my deathbed over this little crisis module, making sure that my clients are safe and actually well taken care of and have all of these resources, than to ever have a situation happen like that in my presence or any of the people that I will have working for me, or in the future when therapists are actually doing this work and coaching people and mentoring people inside of this program. I would rather have all of those systems in fucking place so that never happens, because I will never be a person that didn't fucking do everything. And I'm death gripping this thing. I'm surprised it didn't bend. I would rather be a person that goes against the grain of what we're told that we have to do and do something right. And hold on to my values than to ever let someone's life slip because I wasn't careful, because I was being negligent. Never will happen. Never. So we created this crisis video education. This is how to create stability. This is how to integrate after crisis in the case. Okay? If somebody fills out all of this stuff, they probably will never go into crisis. If you are over prepared and you have all of these tools already laid out for you, chances are you're going to go do the tool. And the more you practice doing the tool, just in the case of like very, very minor emotional uproar, it'll never even affect you. Truth be told. So we also have some document vaults here. And there is something else that I have created, 2 things that I want to share openly, because if anybody ever needed these 2 things, I would give them out for free. First and foremost, I have it is a non-legal psychiatric advance directive. What this does is it is there, and these are openly out to the public. Okay, so there are a million different PADQs out there for people to download. I specifically made it to where I was able to pinpoint all of the gaps that were missing inside of the PADQs that exist. And then inside of there, it is also written, take this to your therapist, take this to your psychiatrist, take this to any medical health professional, and have them legalize it, please and thank you. But what I've done inside of the PADQ is people create their own safety plan without me. If they have questions on what something means, they can reach out. But the goal and the idea is that they take it to their therapist. They take it to the people that are actually advocating for them, because there's something that I cannot do inside of my coaching container, and I cannot advocate for somebody. I cannot legally be there for somebody in the case of a crisis. I cannot go to the hospital with them. I cannot refer them outwardly to people. I can't. I cannot do that. So they have now a tool where they can advocate for themselves. And then the other thing is it is inclusive. So rather you are trans, rather you are gay, bi, lesbian, no matter the demographic, no matter the community, every single one of those things are heard there. And it covers aspects of neurodivergence. It covers mental health things. It covers medication, all of that stuff. And to add on to the tippy top, I just want my clients to have it. They do not have to send it to me. That's the number one thing. They do not have to send that to me. That is not a requirement, but I will make sure that they have everything that they need in order to be successful, in order to be safe, in order to never have to experience the things that I did, like medical maltreatment, especially with mental health, because it just makes it worse. So that's there. The next thing that I created was a directory. because I couldn't find one. And the directory is every single major city in the United States. It has every single, okay, I want you to hear me. Every single institution, mental health institution, emergency institution in all of the major cities of every single state. It is a directory. So anyone that needs help and needs help finding an institution, it is already right there in every single major city. And the directory is laid right out for you. So in the case of you don't live in a major city and you're in the outskirts, you now have a directory in front of you that teaches you basically and shows you what to look for. So all of that is there. Okay, there's a lot going on. So let's go ahead and move into establishing physical safety. So something that we forget inside of the mental health field, especially with the homelessness epidemic, is we want to push mental health onto people that do not have physical stability. Why? I don't know. Why people think that you can heal, why people think that you can do that internal shit without the establishment of physical well-being. Super weird to me, don't know. But just because somebody pays for a course like this doesn't mean that they actually have physical safety inside of their home. It doesn't mean that they're actually stable. It doesn't mean any of that shit. So I created a really cool framework called Nest that people can apply to ensure that they have the physical stability that they need. And if somebody is working with me and they made a poor financial decision, or they do not have the financial structure that they need, then we go and we make those plans together during our calls. That's not something that is in this program specifically, but we do it because nobody actually really knows how to do finances unless they're taught. And so there we go. So Nest is nurture, establish, secure, and tend. It mostly has to do with the physical environment, but also the stabilization piece. This was my favorite one making in the making, which was the undivided mirror. And this has to do with attributes. And I can't wait to just teach this on and on and on and on. But attributes go into so many different modes. This is probably the most intense and most in-depth portion of the course that you can get. And it's so much deeper than just a mirror and understanding our unmet needs, but this is really just like it's destigmatizing shitty emotional ideas, and it's destigmatizing our associations that we've made, and it's putting them into an understanding of neutrality so that way we aren't so attached to our own ideas. And without releasing that attachment or those ideas, like it honestly makes healing impossible. It makes living in unification impossible, and it makes working through your trauma also very impossible because you're constantly distorting reality under stress. So I'm not going to dive too much into the attributes one. For those of you that have taken this, let me know what your guys' thoughts were on this. This was my favorite thing to make. There's just so much passion that I have behind this, but I began making the attributes lesson specifically back in 2023 when I began introducing somatics into personal training. So what I noticed is that with all of my personal training clients, their bodies and even myself could not perform specific. My recording ended, but anyways, I began noticing and realizing that the specific functions inside of our bodies and not being able to perform movements properly generally had to do with some sort of emotional response. And I remember when I was personal training, I had my client constantly shrugging his shoulders when he was doing lateral raises. And I was like, did your dad ever hit you when you were a kid? And I just said it to be funny. And turns out he did. And I was like, hey, I'm not trying to be weird or anything, but I noticed that you keep shrugging your shoulders. Like, does that memory ever come up when you're doing this? He's like, yeah, that's why I keep working hard. And I was like, oh, okay, weird that I knew that for no reason. But every time he did those lateral raises, he does this and then he goes out. And I don't know what that's working, but it's definitely not anything to do with the delts. And oddly enough, I did the same thing. So we can sit and correct movement patterns all day long is what I realized, but it's not actually doing anything and it's not getting better. And if you have trauma stored in the body, the muscles just aren't going to grow. I had that issue. I couldn't grow for shit because my body had so much shit inside of it. And it was really fun, but when I was able to get back into the fitness industry, when I chose to do that, my body just turned overnight. So what I found is like, okay, well, let's start doing somatic work during personal training. And it was really great. And then I realized very quickly off of this client that exhaustion sets in when you're redoing your nervous system. So I was like, okay, well, let's pull back. And I came into the understanding of dream states and altered states of consciousness. And somatic therapy and somatic integration, those things are definitely an altered state of consciousness until you become present. And that was amazing. So I was like, okay, well, let's tie this in with dream states and have people do somatic therapy right before bed. And what we found is that all of my clients stopped feeling as fatigued as they were. They didn't have the normal processing of exhaustion, and then they were able to do their physical performance at a much higher rate. So this all stemmed from me having to do somatic work because of disassociation, and then realizing that this could be used really everywhere. So after that, we implemented it. And that's part of the attributes lesson is we took the physical state, the physical sensations. We placed them within Ayurvedic attributes, and we also combined emotions and emotional integration. So I created those three things all to be at one together because emotional integration doesn't really fucking do anything unless you can understand the sensations in your body. And unless you understand that just because something is heavy doesn't mean that it's bad, you will no longer or stigmatize the way that you feel. So that is basically attributes, and there's way more inside of that than what I described. But I wanted to take a little bit of time to kind of dive into what I teach. All right. So now I want to show you guys the rest of the outward facing info. So that now we have feedback loops, and feedback loops exist in everything. And I'm going to just break it down by the symbolism that we have in front of us, which is our diamond attached to a stop sign, because that's super fun. If we're the Red Diamond Association, it only makes sense that that would be a part of what we do. So if you think about feedback loops exist inside of everything. And something that we forget is, this is, I'm going to mention it because it's on my mind, but today I went into an interview for a nonprofit organization and she asked me how I am with feedback. And I wanted to tell her about this entire theory, but I had to hold myself back because I'm in an interview and I can't be the teacher in this space. And it's also really fucking hard sometimes. But basically I was like, yeah, I wanted to say like, yeah, everything's a feedback. And then it's like, then there's the hierarchy thing, and like there's just certain things that you have to just shut up on. So feedback loops inside of this module shows us that literally everything influences our behavior. Everything, every single person around us is a feedback to our own internal compass. And that's really, really cool because when we use everything around us as a feedback loop, we can heal faster because integration happens faster in action. Really cool, really fun. So these types of feedbacks reinforce different cycles in our lives. What the? There was something crawling on my foot, and it was probably a spider because they love me every time I teach. So with that, that's feedback loops. I'm not going to get into any more of that. because I'm going to teach the whole thing and then blah, blah. So then we have reflection, and maybe reflection should be done before feedback loops, but reflection allows us to observe our inner world after feedback with clarity and neutrality. So the neutrality exists after the attributes, right? So we learn all of that stuff. Just because we understand neutrality doesn't mean that we actually possess it. It takes a lot of work, which is why the rest of the program exists thereafter. So with this, we understand our emotional loops, we interpret symbolic mirrors, and we practice self-correction through aligned choices. So this bridges that gap. Everybody understands what reflection and behavior change, I imagine, if you're here. If you're not here, then feel free to reach out to me and book a call, because then we can go about it into there. So then we have autonomy. And I chose to put autonomy at the end because autonomy is the very thing that continuously grows as we go through life. I remember teaching autonomy in a metaphysical shop. Was it about a year ago now? And autonomy was one of those things that like kind of pissed everyone off, but it was also like, fuck, I have more choices than I think, and I'm kind of just not in my power and externalizing it because I'm not making more choices. So autonomy, and I was able to teach this also today, what intellectual autonomy is. But intellectual autonomy is the decipherance between what you're constantly told, um all of these different viewpoints, and then deciding what it is that you actually think. So this allows us to build courage, harmony, respect, and cautiousness inside of our body and inside of our minds. And it also allows us to respect other people, because a lot of people don't understand this really cool thing, but everything outside of you is also an autonomous being unless it's inanimate. And I think that more of us should start practicing asking if things are okay, even to inanimate objects. So if you think about it, a spider in nature is an autonomous being. And in order for us to understand ourselves and our autonomy, it would mean that we practice giving autonomy first. And then over time, we can give that to ourselves. The reality sets in when we realize that depression, anxiety, a lot of the mental health issues that we have today exist because we don't have enough autonomy, because we don't have enough agency in our lives, because we don't actually realize the choices that we do have. And because we don't realize the choices that we have, it turns into decision paralysis. It turns into that thing where we don't think that we're good enough. We don't think that we can do certain things. And it is the conscious decision over and over and over and over again to treat yourself as if you are a government. That's the way that I like to describe it, is so much internal authority, so much internal power, so much internal coherence that eventually you treat yourself like you are, in fact, a government. The decisions that you make. If it's not great for everyone, then why are you making the decision? That principle alone could change the world. So I'm going to actually make this go big really fast. But yeah, so autonomy, when we see it from that lens, it is truly the thing that could change the world. Because if we make decisions of, this might feel good for me, this might be good for me, but is it good for everyone else? If we ask ourselves that question, then we are no longer contributing to destruction in the world. And that does have to do with elevated states and aspects of consciousness. And it does tie directly into service consciousness, where we want to give back. Is asking yourself, is a decision that you're making inside of your own personal life going to contribute to the betterment of people around you, to society, or is it going to harm society? So rather that is going out and drinking on a Saturday night and then not doing anything Sunday, is it actually benefiting you or your friends to go out drinking every Saturday and get totally blasted? Probably not. Is that necessarily a bad or a good thing? Is it an experience? Sure. Is it negatively impacting society? Maybe not. But is a gunfight at a bar because you and your friends decided to get blasted a problem and benefiting everyone around you? Probably not. So the decisions that we make always end up impacting other people. And are we going to contribute to society and help people, or are we going to be the opposite and hurt people? And granted, there's good and bad in almost everything, but when we understand autonomy, and even giving autonomy back to things that are almost meaningless to us, like an ant, when we can start behaving in that way and doing those things, then it grows inside of ourselves. This is a silly example, but I used to really hate bugs. I mean, hate bugs, despise them. Fear would take over my body, hate them. And one day I realized that I no longer wanted to kill anything. Like, rather that be for hunting, rather that be a bug, whatever that looks like. I never want to experience that again, and I never want to contribute to that again. And I never have murdered anyone. I had to go hunting as a kid and kill animals for my safety. And I'm not going to get too much into my childhood with that. But I made a decision one day that I would never kill anything on purpose ever again. And I got tested. I got tested. Flies would come into my apartment and I would be like, oh, fuck, I gotta catch these flies. Fuck my life. And then moths would come into my apartment and I hate moths. My parents know that I would scream bloody murder over a stupid ass moth. And I'm like, okay, I'll never kill a moth. Okay, 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 okay. And I don't know why I got afraid of moths in the first place, probably because of weirdos putting them in my face or something. But it was that decision to give autonomy back to things that might not be important to people. And by contributing to nature and understanding that life is life and appreciating life, it made it really, really easy to not want to destroy or add to that ever. So, with that, the autonomy course, and this should be impacting you. This video, you should have learned something for your own personal life. If you didn't, I think that there's a problem, regardless of how far along you are on in your life. If you didn't learn fucking anything listening to this video, we might have to have a conversation about where you're at. But that's everything in the course. In this specific course, there's a lot there. That doesn't cover 40 videos. That doesn't cover 33 word document or documents for people. That doesn't cover 12 conversations on the phone, diving into these topics. So with that being said, I am going to go ahead and wrap this up. And I'm going to probably post this pretty much immediately after it's recorded. So the therapy video that I mentioned is not going to be up before this, but it will be one of the next ones. But this is the introduction program. This is for people that haven't done a lot of work. I know that this could impact people that have done a lot of internal work too. This is also a program that is for people that don't want to feel shitty. The biggest thing that I hear from people every time they reach out to me, and mostly everyone's coming from TikTok, oddly enough. People tell me over and over and over again, this is probably the 10th person that I've talked to that's like, listen, I understand this is mental health stuff. Listen, there's this really cool thing called I'm not gonna feel shitty getting my life better. Just not going to do it. I'm sorry. And I used to be that way too. I was like, you want me to feel emotions? Shit, nah. I'm actually going to share a personal story, but I remember I was in therapy and we were doing somatic work. She was actually the person that taught me about it before I went and learned more and got a certification. But she started that with me several years ago and she was like, listen, I noticed that you don't have emotions. She called me out on me not having emotions or access to my emotions at all, and I knew that I didn't. And she goes, do you want them? She gave me the choice in that moment, and as she should have. And I was like, no. Why do I need those things? Like, and sometimes now I'm like, I don't really know how I existed before without emotions or a connection at all to my emotions. I was very, very disconnected from feeling at all. I had no sensation in my body. You couldn't even touch me when I was in that mode. Like you couldn't even do this. I wouldn't feel it at all. At all. And she asked me because I was very structured. I would wake up at 3 a.m. every single day. go to the gym, go to work, build the programs, do the personal training, do all of that stuff. I had the ability to empathize in those things, but as far as like attachment or care about my personal life, stuff like that, um, day to day, there was no fluctuation. There was just blankness, structure, logic. That was it. And it was actually kind of sad. And the more that I told myself like I don't want emotions, I don't need emotions, like that's stupid, it's a waste of my time. And I truly did feel like that. I was like, that's a waste of my time. Why do I need emotions? The more disassociated and disconnected I got. And it got to a point where like I couldn't actually continue living my life without opening up my emotions. So it was kind of a forced thing for my nervous system. But um there's a lot of people out there that are like, F you, I'm not going to feel shitty going through this process. I'm not going to open up my emotions. I'm not going to feel stuff. I got stuff to do. And why would you? Right? Like if you've already gone through all this stuff, why would you want to feel emotions? Right? So that this program is also for you guys. Um, that it's not too invasive. We don't really go into your trauma. We don't really do any of that stuff. And it's not my job to go into your trauma, right? Like if you bring me something that you want to work through and are struggling interpreting it, that's my thing. I'm not really here to dissect your trauma with you. And as much as I would love to do that and hear about that, and as much as every single person for the most part that I interact with on everyday life comes to me with all of their entire life story, um, that's not really that's not really my lane. My job is to provide an interpretation, to reflect things back to you, and to help guide you into the perception that actually gets you to the level that you want to go to. So this specific part of this course is for you if you don't want to feel like shit. Now, I can't promise it. I can't promise that you're not going to feel emotions. I can't promise that you're not going to have a bad day if you don't sue me. Don't sue me because I said that you don't have to feel bad, but it's not designed. This program is not designed to go into the therapy thing. This is not that. This program is designed for you to be able to simplify all of the tools that you never learn in therapy. Um, I didn't learn jack shit about boundaries in therapy. I didn't learn jack shit about autonomy in therapy. I didn't learn jack shit about a PADQ in therapy or mental health or any of this stuff. I think the only thing that I actually learned outside of the last lady that I saw was control and controllables versus uncontrollables. If you can control this thing, then you can act on it. If you cannot control this thing, then it's a waste of your time and you have to move on. That's the only thing that I learned. Nothing else. And I mean nothing. And I didn't learn anything. I don't know. So that to me says that there's a pretty big flaw in the system considering considering um I went to a lot of different therapists and a lot of different systems and a lot of different people and places. So with that, the purpose of this is to not only cut your therapy time in half, but to provide you the tools and the skill sets to create stability in your life for you to be able to be present and there and doing your thing. The purpose of this is for me to show you that you have power, that you have choices, that you have agency in your life, and that you have all of the tools needed to interact with the world without constantly having to have the pressure of um, not having these tools. Because I remember what my life was like without this understanding and how hard it was for me to actually come into these frame of minds. And I don't want anyone else to have to go a day on their mental health journey without these tools. I really don't. If I was given these things from the very first moment and not dragged for my trauma, not dragged for the mental health systems or symptoms that I was experiencing, not stigmatized, not put in a box, not put in a category. And if I had these tools before ever opening anything up or sharing anything, my life would have been easier. And I want other people to have it easier because I had to learn a lot in a very, very hard, extreme, intense, difficult way that I don't want other people to have to go through. So that's why this is here. That's why it exists. Um, I am going to go ahead and wrap up this video now. This is a very long video, so kudos to you if you stayed this long, and I don't know why you wouldn't, because this is loaded. But with that being said, sayonara, and we will see you in the next video.